podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, December 8th, 2019. This is episode 1651. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Ring Central. With Ring Central, you'll get everything you need in one place for your business communication needs. With all-in-one cloud phone, video conferencing, and team messaging, staying connected has never been easier. Save with Ring Central's holiday bundle offer, and don't pay until 2020 when you go to ringcentral.com/techguide. And by Epson's EcoTank printers. This holiday, kiss expensive cartridges goodbye. The Epson EcoTank printer comes with a ridiculous amount of ink. Just fill and chill. Check out epson.com/EcoTankLeo. And by Brave. Brave is the browser reimagined. Switch now to get unmatched speed and privacy and stop trackers from following you. Save battery life and earn rewards by opting into privacy-respecting ads. Brave is free and easy to switch to. Go to brave.com/twit and switch to Brave today. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphone, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number if you want to talk high tech. I'd love to talk high tech with you. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still call, but you have to use Skype out or something like that. 888-827-5536. Excuse me. The website is techguylabs.com. techguylabs.com. That's free and open to all 24/7. And that's there because, I don't want you to have to write something down if you're listening to the show and say, oh, hey, I got to remember that. No, just remember this, techguylabs.com. It'll all be there. We divide the website into shows. This is episode 1651. 1651. So you go right to that show. It'll say Saturday show. I mean, you don't have to remember the number. And then you can go hour by hour. So we divide the show page into hour 1, 2, and 3. And then each hour is divided into calls or segments. And you can drill right down, find the text of what I said. You can even find audio and video from the show after the fact at techguylabs.com. So just keep an eye on that. That's got the phone number there. It's a link to our chat room is there. All sorts of stuff. Welcome. Good to see you. Apple has made an announcement that could be very expensive for people this holiday season. Starting Tuesday, you'll be able to order your new Mac Pro. Starts at $6,000. Oh, you need a monitor? Well, that'll be another $5,000. At least if you want to get the Apple monitor. And that doesn't include the $1,000 stand. So really, the monitor and stand and the computer are the same. They're each $6,000. You don't get the top-of-the-line computer either, this new Mac Pro. For $6,000, you get an 8-core processor, a Xeon, Intel Xeon. You get a teensy-weensy 256-gig hard drive. You get 32 gigs of RAM, but you can upgrade it. In fact, you can upgrade it when you buy it, but the nice thing is it'll be pretty upgradable even after you buy it. It's for pros, hence the name. The display is the crazy thing. It's a big display, 32 inches, the XDR, very high resolution, 6016 by 3384. Very bright, about 4 times the brightness of a normal monitor, 1600 nits. Sustained brightness of 1000 nits. But the real point of the XDR display is its color accuracy. And it's for professional video editors and graders. It's for professional photographers, not for you and me. You want a nano texture coating? Sure. You don't want any rust on the undercarriage, especially in this snowy weather. You get some salt on that monitor, and man, you're going to have rust. So you're going to want to get the nano texture matte coating. It's a mere $1,000. It misses the point a little bit to quote these prices because this is not aimed at us. This is aimed at a professional who's spending much more, $15,000 and more for their special monitors. So There's no point in even commenting on it. I just, and if you're that person, good news, come Tuesday, you can load up the charge card. And man, if you have somebody in your life you really, really like, honey, you could, honey, buy this as a wonderful gift. It's so beautiful, you wouldn't even have to wrap it. Just put it under the tree. It'll look so gorgeous. Teresa's shaking her head at Todd. No, honey, you're not getting this one. It's been a long time, to quote Led Zeppelin. The last Mac Pro was announced late 2013, shipped early 2014. So it'll be 6 years between Mac Pro models. And by the way, they never upgraded that original Mac Pro. It was a long 6 years for those of us who spent lots of money on what people jokingly call the trash can Mac Pro because it looked like a little trash can. Apple apologized. Thanks for the apology. I appreciate it. Made a wonderful doorstop, though, for some of those 6 years, I have to say. Then I gave it to somebody, some unsuspecting friend. Good article in Ars Technica breaking down 5G, and I thought this would be good to pass it along because you're already seeing ads from companies, won't name names, that 5G is already here in the NFL stadiums. 11 stadiums have 5G in one little corner over by the taco stand. That's it. That some cities have 5G. Well, if it's AT&T, it's not really 5G. It's 5GE, which is really just LTE. So there's a lot of, you don't have a 5G phone unless you're nuts. There are some 5G phones you can buy, not from Apple, but Samsung has one. OnePlus has one, but they're really expensive. And the worst part is when you buy the phone, you're required to sign up for non-existent 5G service at a much higher price. Oh, and your battery life's going to be terrible. So I'm not recommending 5G at this point. But this article is by Rob Pegoraro, and I thank you, Rob, for writing this because it's not long, but it kind of clarifies this whole confusing mess. He starts, the long-touted 5th generation, that's what 5G means, of wireless communications is not magic. It'll be nice. It'll be nice. But it's really a basket of technologies, and that's part of the problem. It's you may hear some wonderful things, but that is about a particular kind of 5G. He says, the first thing to know about 5G, it's a family affair, sometimes a dysfunctional family affair, because there are 3 different wireless frequencies for 5G, and each of them works very differently. There's the one most people talk about, the one I usually talk about, millimeter wave 5G. It's at 24 gigahertz. Now, your Wi-Fi is at 2.4 gigahertz, 24 gigahertz. That's why it's millimeter wave. It's microwave. And you may know this. One of the reasons it's safe to use your microwave oven is because these very small frequencies, like even 2.4 gigahertz, bounce off of things. A piece of paper they will bounce off of. A leaf they will bounce off of. So at 24 gigahertz, you have to be very close to the tower. The tower, they'll need 4 times the tower density for millimeter wave 5G. And line of sight, and it's not going to go through walls. It probably won't even, go through your windows at your office. However, it's fast if you can get it. 1.2 gigabits, very low latency, 9 to 12 milliseconds, very much like your landline internet if you had really good internet. That's line of sight, and it was 900 feet from the transmitter. So no one. Maybe if you live in a very dense city and you happen to be close to the tower, maybe. And in fact, this will be used in areas like that for home internet, I suspect. So that's one flavor, and probably not the one you and I are going to get. Then there's the one T-Mobile already just launched at 600 megahertz, much, much longer frequencies. That travels great through walls and stuff, but it's not that much faster. It's not that much faster. Sprint, then that's low band. Then there's mid band, which Sprint's launched at 2.5 gigahertz. That's the same as LTE. That's the same as close to Wi-Fi. So lower speed, but it'll travel better, and you'll probably get 100 megabits, which is pretty good. I mean, everybody'd be happy with that. Although I have to point out, on a good day with a good carrier and not too congested a cell site, I get 100 megabits on Verizon, at&t, some of these others on LTE. So this is the problem. It's so, you see, I'm confused. There's 3 bands: millimeter wave, medium wave, and low wave, low band as they call it. at&t is starting to launch the low band. Oh, and another thing I might point out, they just did a study. I think it was it the FCC? Government agency did a study of carriers' coverage maps. You know, those beautiful pink and red glowing maps that you see on their websites, and said, yeah, not so much. I don't want to use the word lie, but you might. It's not exactly what you're going to get. So don't look at the coverage maps and go, honey, let's get a 5G phone. We're right smack dab in the middle. You might not be. In fact, this whole thing is a bit off. A bit of a ways off. So I'm just going to mention that. One more story, then we're going to get to your calls. Intel CEO, brand new Intel CEO, Swan is his name. They've changed CEOs a bit in the last few years. Bobby Swan, little Bobby Swan, was speaking at a big technology conference, Credit Suisse technology conference, and he, for the first time any Intel CEO has ever admitted it, said, we blew it. We were trying to maintain 90% market share. They had it, 90% of the market. And we think that by doing that, we blew it. We think now about a 30% share. This is good news for AMD and ARM, by the way, they're competitors. I'm trying to destroy the thinking about having a 90% market share inside our company, he said, because I think it limits our thinking. We miss technology transitions. We miss opportunities. We're preoccupied with, this happens in lots of companies. We're preoccupied with protecting our monopoly instead of seeing a much bigger market with much more innovation going on inside and outside the company. So that may be little Bobby Swan just saying, acknowledging the facts, which are all of a sudden AMD is beaten Intel. ARM is beaten Intel. Maybe you're not going to be dominant anymore. And there's also, of course, a lot of rumors that Apple's going to be going to an ARM processor. Microsoft already has with one of their new Surface laptops. So tough times ahead for Intel. But I think this is all a good thing because competition is a good thing, isn't it? We are the beneficiaries. All right, let's take a little break. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number. If you want to talk high tech, I'd love to talk high tech with you. Give me a ring. Kim's here. She's answering the phones, and we'll take our calls, our first calls in just a bit. Give me a ring. Let's talk. 8888 Ask Leo. You doing some shopping for the geek in your life this weekend? I can help there, too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Hello. Schaffer. Hello, Unbreakable.
Somebody asked me on the phone if I was really unbreakable, and I said, nah.
No.
I'm not. I'm pretty breakable.
She's actually so fragile that we're trying to build her up by calling her unbreakable.
I know.
It's like you and me both, baby.
No.
So am I going to have your full attention, or are you going to be watching some football this morning? I thought so.
I'm so glad this person that's streaming it on Instagram illegally is doing this.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, we won't say anything
I won't
to the
say who
NFL.
it is, but yeah. No.
Isn't that funny?
It's great.
It's hard.
I just figured this out last week. I've always been bummed when there's a game going on, when the show's going on, because I missed them all,
right,
the whole season.
Right.
And last week, somebody's like, where can I watch the game if I don't have TV? And somebody pointed out this Instagram account.
This is the problem.
Been awesome.
With paywalls. It's why sometimes people say, well, why do you give away your shows? All of our podcasts are free, ad supported, like this radio show.
Figure out how to put it out there for free anyway.
Yeah, if you put a wall around it,
yep,
geeks are just going to say, take that as a challenge, shall we say. They'll stream it on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to give it away anyway. That's a nice thing to do. So who should I talk to first?
How about JC and we're our mothership in Sherman Oaks.
Beautiful Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks.
Hello, JC. Thank you, Kim. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Thank you so much for taking my call this morning.
Thank you for calling.
So I finally got my Samsung Galaxy 2 active LTE version smartwatch.
I'm so excited. I'm a big fan of the Samsung smartwatches. I think, does it still have the rotating bezel, or did they get rid of that?
They got rid of the actual physical rotating bezel. It's not just kind of like the touch-sensitive thing. But
okay.
It's just good. It's fine. I'm happy with that.
It's probably more reliable without the moving parts.
I like it. Yeah, it's smoother, it's faster, and I got the stainless steel. It looks really nice.
Nice.
It's a beautiful watch. So in the past, I've been kind of like very picky about these smartwatches, especially the LTE versions. I like, to have the choice to walk around without having my cell phone in my pocket, and it's just nice. It's a convenience. But the problem I've had in the past is, like I'm with AT&T, and they have something called where they sync, your cell phone number to the watches.
Oh, yeah.
Number sync.
So your phone will ring. I mean, your watch will ring when your phone rings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's my callers just use my cell phone number, and it's forwarded. So in the past, what's the buggy thing about it is that I've noticed that the messages, text messages, were coming in, but when I replied to them, they were either not going through, or it would take like up to minutes, 10 minutes to go through, and it was very unreliable. Things looks like things have gotten better, technology's gotten better, and now what happens is that they will go through, but it will go for anywhere between messages going instantly to up to 8 minutes delay time, which is, to me, is unacceptable. And it just doesn't. I don't really understand why that's the case. But I thought of this, and I wanted to check with you to see what you think. I'm considering using Google Voice, and that way, if I give people my Google Voice telephone number, it could sync to. It can either sync to my original cell number or the watches.
Yeah, I've never tried this, but it seems so. The reason you have to do all this rigmarole is the watch any watch with LTE has its own phone number.
Exactly.
A number you don't know probably and never use. You can find it, but you don't. It's like, what is this number? I've had this problem. What is this? Oh, at that. And by the way, they also charge you. I don't know what AT&T charges, but it's $10 extra a month. Same on T-Mobile. So you have a phone number. So if somebody knew that number, they could call your watch directly.
Yes, and it goes, and then everything works really well.
And it will go fast because the watch is now no longer going through a gateway via this kind of AT&T hodgepodge system. So and Google Voice should do exactly the same thing. It's going to forward your Google Voice number to the watch number, and text will go through Google Voice in the watch. I have no reason to think it wouldn't work. I think it's worth a try anyway. I mean, at least it's something you can do for free.
Right.
And I use Google Voice for a lot of these kinds of kooky things. Obviously AT&T's gateway is the holdup. Now, Google Voice has a gateway, too, and so there may be issues. Sometimes people complain about Google Voice not being super responsive and things like that. Plus, I don't know if your SMS app will work. This is, by the way, the bigger question, because Google Voice, I don't think, does SMS anymore.
Oh, so you can't send text then?
Well, if I don't know, is there a Hangouts? Even just saying this makes me laugh. Is there a Hangouts app for the Samsung Watch? Probably not.
I haven't tried that.
Yeah, as I remember, they stopped doing. Let me just real quickly look. I think they stopped doing SMS with Google Voice, but maybe not. Maybe not. It's worth it. As I said, it's free, and you can undo it very quickly.
That was I was about to ask you. If I could just disable that whole thing if it doesn't work, and
then you turn it back on again. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I don't. Yeah. don't know. That's a really yeah, I think, okay, Google Voice. I think that's going to be the issue is text messaging on Google Voice. And I'm just not sure. Oh, Google Voice does still do SMS. Okay. So you should be able to then. That was my question, is if the SMS app on your watch would work. But what might happen is the SMSs may look like they're coming from your watch's phone number. I don't know what's going to happen there. You know what? This is a worthy experiment.
What I've read online people who've experimented with Google Voice, and some people said something like to the effect that when people do try to call like their original cell numbers, their cell phones, something happens because now Google Voice is now there or something, and I don't want that to happen. People are going to call my cell phone, and I just want it to be just like it, just going back to cell number. My cell phone.
Of course, used Google Voice for years, love it. And then when I went to Google Fi, they take over Google Voice. So I am not sure what would happen with a normal Google Voice account. You know what? All I could say is it's an easy experiment. It's free. Okay. You can turn everything. You could change everything if you want. In fact, I don't see any reason to turn off the AT&T forwarding at this point, because you're going to give people a new number unless you're going to port your number to Google Voice. That's the thing. That's the irrevocable. Don't do that. I mean,
I wouldn't do that.
It's not completely irrevocable, but it's not. It's a pain in the butt to get it back. So, don't point your number. Just you have now a new number, and you'll start giving that out. I would you don't have to turn off the AT&T car forwarding. You can just try it and see.
Okay.
And then that way, if it doesn't work, well, no harm, no foul.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Let me know, will you? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
That's a clever idea.
If this works, then it's a good workaround, the unreliability of number sync with AT&T or whatever.
I think the AT&T is using a gateway, and that's the holdup.
Yeah, something buggy. I mean, it's weird because you think that this is something simple that it should work really easily, especially with texting. But
texting, if you knew what a kludge texting is, you might not have thought that. Hey, I got to run.
Okay, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you. Great to talk to you. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you this week?
I'm great. You're sitting in front of my new car. What is
Not quite.
It doesn't have a seat.
No, what's behind me here is actually it was a GM concept from 2001.
It's got 4 tires.
It was one of the first concepts for an electric skateboard chassis. This particular one used hydrogen fuel cells and in-wheel motors, but this basic concept has been adapted over the last 20 years to pretty much all or most of the dedicated electric vehicles that are being designed and developed now, because one of the advantages with a battery electric vehicle or even a fuel cell vehicle for that matter is you can, unlike an engine which has a certain amount of bulk that's sticking up, you can package the batteries or fuel cells and hydrogen storage tanks down into a relatively small relatively thin layer, which looks in this case very much like a skateboard. And one of the first companies to really use it in production was Tesla on the Model S. They developed a skateboard platform, and they've since used the same basic concept on all of their vehicles. And other EV companies like Rivian and now Ford with the new Mustang Mach-E and everybody else is following the same basic principle. Because
this is an interesting point to me, because it seems like car manufacturers want to manufacture more modular so that they can design one chassis and reuse it in multiple cars. Is that kind of the idea here? Is this skateboard, which is a chassis with batteries, is a reusable?
Yeah, over the last platform. 25, 30 years, the industry has generally gone towards this kind of platform approach where they can reuse a lot of components and mix and match. You can stretch it out for a longer wheelbase or shorter wheelbase, or stretch the track out wider or narrower depending on the vehicle that you're trying to do and what the use case is.
It also reminds me of an insight that I had driving my late beloved Model X Tesla. which is it's essentially a golf cart with a computer and a nice body on top of it. In other words, you felt like that skateboard is just like an electric golf cart. It's an electric thing, and then you make it a car by putting a big computer in it and a body in it. Oh, what's that one? Now you just changed your skateboard.
Yeah, so this is the skateboard for Rivian's pickup truck and SUV that they're doing. So again, you can see, this is a more production intent version. This is very similar to what Tesla has, and what Canoo is doing, and everybody else. Where you build in the motors at either end, stuff the middle of it with a giant battery pack, add some suspension components. And then once you have this basic platform, you can put larger or smaller motors depending on your need. And then just put what's called in the industry a top hat on top.
Top hat. So, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you stick a different body shell on there, so you can have top hats that look like station wagons or a coupe or a van or a pickup truck, and they basically just bolt on it. So you have this rolling chassis. You can stick some wheels on here, bolt some wheels on here, and have this rolling chassis that has most of the functionality in it. And then you just have mainly some electrical connections and the connections for the ventilation system and the heating system up into the body, and then the rest just kind of sits there on top of the skateboard.
Part of the reason this works
easier to do different vehicles
is because electric vehicles are much simpler than internal combustion vehicles. They are. The design is so simple. So I don't mean to put down the Tesla by saying it's like a golf cart. It's just, you get the sense it's a very simple thing I'm riding on here.
At its core, it's not fundamentally different conceptually from a golf cart.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you have
it's just a really nice golf cart.
Very powerful computers on there. Yeah. For old style, for golf carts, you typically just have a handful of lead acid batteries, basically the same batteries you use as your starter battery in a traditional car, but. For these, you've got to have a computer to manage the battery management system and the cooling of the battery. You've got computers for your driver assist systems and everything else. But conceptually, it's not that different from a golf cart.
Yeah. So electric motors are incredibly simple. Mm-hmm. Low maintenance too. My wife, as I've told you before, bought a Bolt, the Chevy all-electric vehicle, and she was asking me, I'm coming up on 10,000 miles. Do I bring it in? I said, I don't know, but probably not. The maintenance schedules are very different on EVs. Yeah,
I mean the main thing you would want to do with an EV, there are some things.
Tires,
Yeah, you want to rotate the tires, so you can continue having even tire wear, checking alignment.
There's still
things
tires,
like that. Yeah, and check the brake pads.
But there's no oil to change, there's no transmission, so there's no fluid. Yeah. It's an incredibly simple thing. I think that's good.
Most of that stuff, even on modern internal combustion vehicles, except for oil changes, most of that stuff is sealed up on modern ICE vehicles anyway. Right. So there's very little maintenance of those other things. It's mainly just the wear items: brakes, tires,
windshield wipers.
Blades.
Yeah.
Check. Make sure you've got washer fluid in there for your wipers, things like that. That's the main maintenance on modern cars. We've got a car that's we bought coming up on 3 years ago now, and it's a Honda Civic. Our maintenance cost has been so far a total of $90 for two visits. For an oil change and a tire rotation.
What a change!
Yeah.
Now you mentioned the batteries, lead acid in a golf cart, of course, because those were cheap and widely available, and you didn't need a huge amount of range on a golf cart. But nowadays, these lithium-ion batteries, the prices are falling a lot, aren't they? Wasn't that I think that's the biggest, most expensive component in an electric vehicle.
It's by far the most expensive component in an EV, and the prices come down a lot. When they were building the Tesla Roadster 10 years ago and the first generation Chevy Volt, the batteries in those things cost estimated somewhere between $600 and $800 per kilowatt hour of capacity. Wow. Now those prices are down somewhere in the range of $200, $250 per kilowatt hour and dropping. And it's estimated that by the middle of the decade, will be somewhere between $100 and $150 dollars per kilowatt hour.
That's a big change. Why is it so much less expensive?
Part of it is just getting economies of scale, as we
Bigger
ramped
factories.
up production.
Yeah.
But also, improving the chemistries, improving the construction of the battery, so that we can get more out of it. And it's just driving down the cost as the technology improves.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you get to mass sales, it seems like prices go down. That's one of the miracles, really, of the modern technology era. Sam Abuelsamid, he is a principal researcher at Navigant Research, but if you like cars, you got to listen to Wheel Bearings, his podcast at wheelbearings.media. Of course, he's my personal car guru.
Thank you, Leo.
Although I have to say, I'm a little mad at you for sending a link to the Electric Corvette to my wife. Fortunately,
that was only $700,000.
Fortunately, she decided that was a little steep. You made me nervous for a minute there, Sam. When I saw the price on that, I choked.
I figured once Lisa saw that, then she would say, okay,
she's
I
a
don't
sensible
really need that.
person. Thank you, Sam. Safe driving.
Thank you, Leo. See you next week.
That's a great subject. Very interesting subject. So
Yeah.
I guess e-bike batteries would be falling too, or no?
Yeah, all lithium battery prices are falling. And just this week, GM on Thursday announced a joint venture with LG Chem to build a new cell manufacturing plant in Ohio for their new EVs that are coming on stream, including an electric pickup truck they're launching in 2021 and some SUVs in 2022.
Wow.
They're investing $2.3 billion in that factory.
When will you get to drive the Cybertruck? Are you going to get to?
Someday maybe. That's not going to be in production probably till 2022 at the earliest.
Yeah.
So sometime after that.
Yeah.
But speaking of electric vehicles, I've been getting stuff lined up for CES and got some interesting things for us to do. I've talked to the folks at Ford. We're going to get a Sync 4 demo.
Oh, great.
And a walk around of the Mach-E. They're gonna have that
really great. Oh, I'm going to get to see my new car. How exciting.
And we got FLIR and
FLIR's
Rinspeed.
great. Nice.
Yeah, the Rinspeed Metro Snap, their latest autonomous concept.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And NXP is all confirmed now as well for a ultra wideband demo.
You're way ahead of us. We have hardly started our planning. We need to too, because we got a lot to.
My schedule's almost full already.
Yeah, I bet it is.
For my time at CES.
I'm trying to decide if I want to make appointments for these or if I just want to ambush the booths. There's a certain spontaneity to just showing up at a booth with a little because I'm not going to be bringing big cameras. It's not going to look like a network operation, and it's a little more candid.
I mean for these, my experience with these companies.
You can't go to Ford. No one's going to talk to you.
Yeah. To have an appointment, have a time set up.
Yeah.
Then they'll make sure they've got somebody available to talk to us.
I'll have to.
Otherwise,
you
you end up standing around for half an hour, and that's not helpful.
And I'm sure their schedules are filling up too, so this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah,
I got to get to work. All right, Sam.
I'll talk to you next
Appreciate
week.
it.
Oh, I had my first experience fixing a TV this week, and it worked.
You fixed your TV?
TVs are repairable.
What did you
do? Modern TVs are repairable.
What did you do?
I replaced the main board and then reflowed the solder on one of the connectors on the power supply board on a Vizio 5-year-old Vizio TV.
I'm impressed.
And works.
Where'd you get the replacement motherboard? Is it on eBay?
From a site called TV Parts Today.
Nice.
It was $40.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Nice.
Instead of tossing it out, I got it back up and running. Swapped that one out for an older TV in the bedroom. Well,
that's impressive. Yeah. Especially reflowing the solder. Wow.
Well, it was actually pretty easy. Just took off the board, and the connector was right there. Just took my soldering iron, heated it up a little bit, added a little extra solder, and
impressive.
Good to go.
Very impressive. Yeah. Sam, you're a man. That's the modern man, right. Not woodworking, fixing the TV.
I do that too. I do everything around here.
All right, Sam. Have a good one. Take care. Do you know what phone system we use? I bet you some of you, if I gave you a quiz, would know. Because we've been using it for years, since we moved to the brick house 8 years ago. At that time, we never had a phone system before, and I said, do I have to go to the phone company and get PBX in the basement? How does this work? I didn't know. And when we were in the cottage, we made everybody use their own cell phones. And that's when Russell said, oh, we got the best of both worlds. No PBX in the basement. You don't have to go to the phone company. You go to Ring Central. We have regular phones on our desks, just like the phone company, but you can also use your cell phone. You can make calls from the company number on your phone using the Ring Central app. And by the way, over these 8 years, Ring Central has added features. They've got better and better and better. They're the #1 global cloud phone system now, and they do pretty much everything. They allow your businesses to have effortless communication. When you're on the go, you can work remotely, manage your business from your mobile device. You could seamlessly switch when you get back to the office. Boop, you don't drop the call. It just moves over to your desktop. You can route calls. They have video conferencing. They even have team messaging. So if you're paying for an independent team messaging platform, this will save you money, and it all integrates together. You even get faxing without having to have a fax machine, online faxing. And I love Ring Central because it integrates with all the tools we use, Gmail and Zapier. Yeah, you know I love Zapier. Salesforce, Microsoft Outlook. The retrieve voicemail function has transcription. So if you're stuck in a meeting, you don't have to listen to the call to find out if that's an urgent client calling. Just look down at your phone. Oh, yeah. I even get my voice messages in email, transcription plus audio. It's really much more than just a phone system. You will simplify your workflow so you can connect easily with customers and employees, giving you effortless service. With any mode, on any device, anywhere, their app provides flawless integration, letting you transition from your personal phone to your computer during a call. Ring Central's app, amazing, lets you send business text messages, SMS, from your personal phone. You don't have to even transfer your contacts into the app because it automatically knows them. It populates them for you. That Ring Central app's incredible. They even let you take your existing numbers and port them over. That's what we did. We had a great 800 number, and I just moved it right over to Ring Central without a hitch. It's the complete communication system from one vendor. I like that too. I don't have to have multiple vendors. Starts as low as $19.99, which means you're saving money, and you'll cut your phone costs by at least 30%. Also, of course, great service, customer service 24/7 via telephone, live chat, and email. We are so happy. We've been with Ring Central now for 8 years. I wouldn't dream of changing a thing. And I love finding out. I'm always finding out, oh, you do this now. We just found out they did team messaging. That's awesome. Sign up today. You'll get instant access to Ring Central's award-winning powerful phone system, text, fax, video conferencing, and more. We do all our meetings on Ring Central. Absolutely awesome. And they make it easy to switch from your current provider. So take a look at this holiday bundle just for you. You don't pay until 2020 when you go to ringcentral.com/techguy. Please use that address so they know you saw it here. Ring Central, R-I-N-G, ring, one ringy dingy, ringcentral.com/techguy. You got to do it. It's awesome. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Beep, beep, toot, toot. 8888, ask Leo. Line 2 is Tom in Cleveland, Georgia. Hello, Tom.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Tom?
Okay. I've got a problem, and Kimmy maybe got me on the right path here. I've got a Moto G7, and whenever I take photos, it's synced to Google Photos, or actually Google One. And the problem is, I've got thousands of photographs that stay on my phone.
Right.
Now, if I delete them and I take another picture, and apparently it gets synced, all those photos are back on my phone again.
iPhone?
Pardon?
An iPhone?
No, it's a Moto G7.
Android phone.
Yeah.
So your only photo storage on there, you're not using the Motorola Gallery, you're using the Google Photos.
That's correct.
Okay. And so what you do once you sync, and you have to. The reason I asked about iPhone is that Google Photos won't sync unless the app is open on the iPhone, because the iPhone's very aggressive about killing background processes. Some other Android phones might also be, but you open it up and you look in the Google Photos reports. Everything's been backed up, right?
Yes.
And are you using the setting in Google Photos that says delete backed up photos?
No.
Okay.
I haven't come across that yet.
So there is a setting in Google Photos. It's to free up space. It's scary but it's safe. It says to free up space, delete local copies of the photos, but save them on Google Photos. That if you do that, that will delete all the local copies. You're not going to lose the photos because when you open Google Photos, it shows you everything. But those are so. The thing is, it's a little hard to understand what's going on because you're seeing your photos. You're going, well, it must still be on the phone. It's streaming that image to your phone. If you tap on that photo for a higher quality version, you'll notice a delay, depending on your speed, a short delay, as it loads the photo from the internet. Now there is a copy of the photo on your phone again. So,
because I've got the same thing with Lightroom. You know, all these things are appearing on my Lightroom.
Yeah, so Lightroom's kind of doing the same thing. Apple Photos, there's a setting to do the same thing. The idea is, you know, this is all in response to the fact that for years people buy a phone and they fill up the limited memory with pictures, and there was no really good way around that. In fact, I talked to people who said more than once I've heard somebody say, "I need a new phone. I've filled mine up." Like she's going to go buy a new phone because it's filled up, because they have no idea what to do at this point. So Apple, and I think Google's kind of following suit too, both of them with their Photos apps. Apple, it's a switch, but Google does it by default. They're both backing up your photos to the cloud if you tell them to. And Google does it automatically. So they're on the Google Cloud. In fact, you can verify that by going to your computer and typing photos.google.com. And seeing all your photos will be there on the web. You'll see them. But what Apple and Google then do is they don't actually keep copies of the photo. They don't need to keep copies of the photos on the phone, thereby filling the phone up. Apple will keep what they call low-quality copies that are good enough for the phone, the small screen, but not high, but the high-quality copies are kept in the Apple iCloud. With Google Photos, it does it just automatically. It doesn't delete the photos. So if you want to delete them, you have to use that free space by deleting backed up photos. It's good because it will only delete the photos that it knows it has a copy of in the cloud. So it's in my experience, safe. And then you'll have more storage on your phone. But just remember, and same thing with Lightroom, you'll still see the photos, but you're seeing thumbnails. And in effect, it's like streaming. It's like when you stream video from YouTube, you're not downloading it to the phone, you're just viewing it. Mm-hmm. You'd have to do something extra to download it. It's the same thing with Google Photos. It's a little confusing because they're trying to hide the details from us.
Yeah, I know. I have another question. On your trip, did you have any did you use what 3 words for any of your navigating?
What's rewards? Oh, what 3 words? Yes. No, I didn't. I love what 3 words, though. I think it's a really clever idea. And I don't know if you know, I've interviewed the creators of it. And it's a cool idea. The idea being who remembers a longitude and a latitude? It's just a lot of numbers. But you can remember 3 words. So, for instance, and by the way, they've divided the entire world into 10-meter squares. So, for instance, the location of the front door of my studio is at Glow Walnut Nasal. Now, that's meaningless to a normal person, but if you have the What 3 Words app and you enter in Glow Walnut Nasal, it'll show you where on the map. It'll even port it over into Google Maps so that Google Maps will know where to go because it just translates it to longitude and latitude, and Google Maps says, yeah. It's nice because an address might bring you to a building, but that doesn't tell you where the front door is. This way, you know within a 10 square meter area, actually 10 square feet, 3 meters square, you'll know where this front door is. So, but the problem with that is you need to know the 3 words. And nowhere else in the world does anybody that I know of use 3 words. Have you used it in your travels?
Well, I do all the time. And as a matter of fact, the neat thing about it is you can translate it into 35 other countries.
Yes, they have every language. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go to the app and find the 3 words that you're looking for, and I'm going to the Netherlands, let's say. I don't speak Dutch, but I can translate it into Dutch so the cabbie can look at it.
Oh, what a good idea. Do the cabbies use What 3 Words?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think it was Mercedes built it into their nav system. I would love to see this become a global standard. It's so much easier.
And so has Ford with their the Sync 3.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Well, when I get my new Ford, I think I'm gonna get one of them Ford electric vehicles, the Mach-E, at the end of next year. When I get that, I'll be using What Three Words again. I'm thrilled to hear you can use it globally. That's great.
Yeah, it really is fantastic.
It's a British company. It's a clever idea.
Yeah, I love people who think outside the box.
Yeah. It solves a real problem because humans are not good at long strings of numbers, but words. Like I remember Glow Walnut Nasal. I even have a plaque on the wall.
Yeah, my address is Decisive Dress Registration. That takes you right to my driveway.
Isn't that hysterical? Now, you've just given out your address to everybody in the world. I hope you don't have any weirdos showing up at your door. Hey, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Yeah, What Three Words? Let me just check. I think it's what3words.com. You could, I'm sure if you just Googled What Three Words, you'd go right to it. And they have an app for iOS and Android it's a map app. It's what3words.com. You can play with it a little bit. It's a geocoding solution with a resolution of 3 meters. And that's kind of neat, too. There are areas of the world where addresses are not commonly used. In Venice, Italy, for instance. I don't know what they do. They say, take a left at the boat and go straight for 3 feet. I don't know what they do. We're on the canal. So What Three Words is very handy in areas where, in fact, I believe there's a postal service in a country in Africa that uses What Three Words now. It's kind of like zip codes. I mean, that's really what zip codes do, but zip codes only get you to the post office. What Three Words will get you down to the last 10 square feet. And you'll know. And if you go to what3words.com/glow.walnut.nasal, it'll take you right to our studio. Just don't. I think in the U.S. it's probably not prudent to tell the cabbie, I'm going to Glow Walnut Nasal. Can you get me there? They may look at you strangely. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know anything about your nose. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. Somebody actually called with a smartwatch question last hour. I was shocked. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. I'd love to hear from you if you want to ask a question or make a suggestion. I know we're getting close to the holidays, and I always advise people, if you're buying a gift for a geek, be careful. It's easy to think you know what they want. Take it from me, you don't, unless you are also a geek. If you're paying close attention, okay. But if you want any advice, geek advice, I can help you too. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones. Larry, San Francisco. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Leo. Nice to talk to you again.
Wonderful to talk to you.
Before I ask my question, I want to say that I am sorry to Kimmy. When she picked up the phone, I was so anxious to get my question out that I just started babbling and didn't take a minute to chat with her. And when I calmed down, we got to bond over having a 415 telephone area code number.
Oh, she is just the greatest. We're really
she's very, very sweet. I felt really
lucky.
bad about that.
Oh no, that's okay, right, Kim? Yeah, she's fine. She doesn't mind. What can I do for you, Larry?
Well, my first question, which will probably lead to my second question, my first question was, I'm building a new computer, and I haven't been paying much attention to the M.2 drives because they were always sort of out of reach monetarily. But I found one, a 2-terabyte one, on Tiger Direct for like $200. So I'm thinking of grabbing it. But my question is, can they be partitioned the same way any other drive can?
Yeah, so M.2 is just a specification for how an SSD is connected to the motherboard. So your motherboard, if it supports M.2 cards, will have a little slot. They're kind of like the old SO DIMMs, except instead of lengthwise, the connector's at the end, at the narrow end. So they have a little slot the size of the connector. You push it in. Usually there's a screw to hold it down. As soon as you do that, the computer sees it as just another hard drive. In fact, it generally, I think with M.2 drives, will put it first in order. You know, it's like the first drive 0. But then it's just like any other drive. You could partition it. You can do anything you want with it. It's a regular drive.
Excellent. In fact, my motherboard says that it takes up. That's why I had a question that it actually sort of inactivates the first, I think it's 3 SATA connectors.
Yeah. So often what I'll do, because you're right, the M.2 NVMe drives tend to be a little more pricey. The advantage of them is because they're directly connected to the PCI Express bus. They're very fast. That's almost as fast as a drive can get. They can keep up with these very, very, very fast solid-state drives you're getting. So they tend to be expensive. So usually I'll get a little bit smaller one. That's where I'm going to put my operating system and my applications, the stuff that I really want to load fast. And then I'll use those extra SATA ports to put a regular SSD in there. I don't buy spinning drives anymore. The SSD prices have dropped enough that I don't. It's like I'm not going to save enough to make it to put up with the speed difference. So I like SSD, and SSD on a SATA bus is still very fast, especially the modern SATA buses. Not as fast as PCIe, but it's still pretty fast. So you put your smaller, faster NVMe card on the M.2 bus, then maybe get an external. Not external, but a SATA drive for your data and that kind of thing. That's a nice configuration. 512 gigs on the NVMe is fine, and then a terabyte or 2 on the SATA.
Well, actually, that leads to my second question, because I wanted to run my plan for distributing storage and ask you if you think it's ridiculous or if there's going to be a problem. Because what I want to do is get the M2, partition it into 2 1-terabyte partitions. On one partition, I would just put my operating system and maybe drivers. On the second partition, I'm going to put all of my regular programs like Office, Photoshop, my video manipulation programs, those sorts of things. Then I'll have a second terabyte SSD that I'm going to put all my games on. Every game that I play is going to be on that. And since I already have a 4-terabyte spinning drive, I'm going to put that and maybe partition it in 2 and put photos and music and stuff like that on that.
That's fine for data, because it's got a lot of capacity and speed is not as important. Yeah, I think that's fine. When you partition a drive to separate programs and data, you're not getting. It's not a separate drive. Remember, it's all in the same physical drive. Right. So it's really more an organizational tool than it is a speed tool. You might make the argument that, well, if I put all my operating system and apps on the solid state and NVMe drive, then maybe that's going to be faster, and then I don't care so much about my data being on a slower spinning drive. But so I'm not sure that the partitioning. The only reason I would do that partitioning on the same drive is so that you can blast away the Windows partition and put a new version of Windows in there without any risk of touching your data, stuff like that. So it's So I'm not sure that first partition of the NVMe drive is really necessary. You can have that all live on there because it's applications. The big separation is applications, is operating system plus applications. And as you know, with Windows, it really wants the programs to be in the same hard drive. It's hard to, with Windows, put programs anywhere but the C drive. So I would make one big C drive, your NVMe, for your operating system and programs. Not as big, but big-ish. And then the second drive can be data. The other reason sometimes people will do this is for multiple operating systems. If you ever thought you might put Linux on there, it's better to put Linux on a second drive than a second partition. It makes it a little easier for you.
Well, I'm more worried about running out of space because that's the problem with the computer that I have now. It works fine. It's like 6 years old. It's working fine, but I'm running out of hard drive.
Well, you're more likely to run out of space when you do the partitioning of the M.2 NVMe drive because you've set a partition and it's inflexible. If you just use the whole drive for all of those programs, that'd be fine. And then the data goes out on the spinning drive. That's fine. I think that's then because the spinning drive's huge, you're not going to run out of data, and it's easy with data to put a second drive in or put a bigger drive in. So I think the only thing it doesn't really matter. But remember, when you partition a drive, you're putting kind of an artificial limit on how much you can put in that partition. So why partition at all? On a solid state drive, there's no benefit to having two partitions if it's just more applications. Are you going to put any data on that second partition?
No, just my program.
I would say you don't need to partition the NVMe drive. Just make that, 2 terabytes. You probably don't even need that big a drive. I'm worried about Tiger Direct. Sometimes they sell weird stuff. Read some reviews on the model that you're getting for that price. It's not an unusual price. I see a Samsung Evo, I think, for that price, and the Evos are very good. But make sure it's a decent SSD that you're getting, that it's using the NVMe technology, for instance. You want to make sure it's a PCIe bus. And if it isn't, then get a smaller one for the same price. Get all that speed, and then just put everything on that drive except the data. The data goes on the spinning drive.
Okay.
That's kind of how I would do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Tiger Direct can be fine, but anytime you see a really low price on a retailer that's like that, which really kind of is a low price retailer, I would look at the brand and then read reviews on the brand. PC Magazine just did a review about a week ago, PCMag.com, on the best M.2 drives of 2019. And so I would look at what they are saying here and make sure that that drive you're going to buy is on this list. Here's a $200 Seagate Fire CUDA. $200, but it's only 512 gigs. Is that right? Let me see. No, it's a terabyte. Boy, the prices have dropped. Terabyte's probably enough for your applications and your Windows, unless you put an awful lot of applications on there. It's data that starts to expand without limit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. Paul in Delaware, Ohio. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Leo, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm driving from Maryland from my mom's house back to Ohio. And I said, let me call Leo because I've been meaning to call you for the longest time. We spoke before. We met in Maryland about 15 years ago.
Oh, I remember. Well, I don't remember you specifically, but I remember doing that. It was a fun trip.
It was a Best Buy.
Yeah.
You published your book, and I took a pic. You were standing on a stage, and I took a picture with a digital camera and printed it out in the Best Buy printer, and you signed it.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure in those days I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, oh, you did. You said, how the heck did you do this? Epson had just come out with where you could put the card into the printer and it would print it.
Right.
And the Epson salesman was there, so yeah, it was pretty cool.
Let me try this thing. I don't know. How's this going to work?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It amazed me.
You know what's really replaced autographs in these events now is selfies. That's what you do. Yeah, everybody does a selfie line.
Yeah, I'm driving to Ohio talking to you. It's amazing.
Well, be careful, okay? Don't let's not get too amazed. Pay attention to the road. What's your question, sir?
Okay, you had a guy on there. His name was Gary. He was a Vietnam vet, and he wanted to start. He had all his pictures, an older gentleman.
Yeah, and I didn't at the time. I didn't mention the blog, and after I thought about it, and the chat room yelled at me when we came back after the commercial, and I hope Gary had stayed, kept listening. I suggested he set up a blog. I haven't heard from him since.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if we could get the contact information. I would have been able to help him out on that journey. I mean, it's probably really important to him to get those pictures out there. So,
yeah, Gary, was an older gentleman, sounded kind of sad that he didn't have anybody in his life to share those pictures with. And he wanted to know, he had pictures. He was in the Navy in Nam, and he had pictures of ships and historic pictures from Vietnam. And he said, what can I do with these? And I later mentioned, and I think this is the right answer, to put up a blog, because that will get those pictures out to the largest possible audience. Gary, if you're listening, email leo@techguylabs.com and send me the link if you do a blog. And if you'd like to do a blog and like some help from Paul here, send me your email address and I'll hook the two of you up, okay? I hope he is listening, Paul. That's a nice thing to volunteer. That's the kind of thing. I always think of this as did you ever go to users groups, Paul? Users groups were, they're still around. They were really big maybe in the earliest days of computing because you weren't getting any support from the companies. Oh, you still aren't, are you? But users would help each other. I always think of this radio show as a user group. And sometimes at user groups, that's what would happen. Somebody'd stand up and say, well, I'll help you, Gary. And they'd get together, and it was a beautiful thing. So thank you, Paul.
Well, if you do hear from him, just you could just say that I listen to all your podcasts. You could just get the information on there, or on your webpage.
We'll put it on the webpage. That's a great idea. Yeah, and what I'm hoping is that he will put them up on a blog that we can all see, because I'd love to see them.
Oh, absolutely. It's pretty important to support our vets.
You bet.
I'm the same age as you. I just missed the draft.
I was in the last lottery, and I got a very high number, thank goodness.
Jesus, I went down to sign up, and they told me go home. The draft is over.
It's over, yeah. But boy, so many of our generation went there and made great sacrifices. Some made the ultimate sacrifice for a war that really probably was not the war we should have been in, and so I have great sympathy for all of our men and women who served. Yeah, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thanks for volunteering, Paul.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for Gary. I don't normally get emails from our callers. We don't want to, I think a lot of people who listen to our shows are kind of privacy sensitive, and I don't blame them. It's an interesting issue, actually, an increasingly difficult issue for me, because advertisers are spoiled by Google and Facebook. Google and Facebook know all about you. And you can go on Facebook, and pretty much this is the way advertising is going, and say, well, I want women age 25 to 36 who live in the mid-Atlantic states and have incomes of $150,000 or more, and you can buy that. And it's a small buy because it's a small number of people, and you can really target your ads. And advertisers come to us as podcasters and say, I want to do that. And we don't collect that kind of information, but even if we did, I think a lot of our listeners would say, well, I'm not giving you that. I don't want you to know that. The problem is on Facebook, and to a lesser degree Google, you give them that information all the time. Not to them specifically, not intentionally, but they collect it, and they've got it. And it's not like they're going to say to an advertiser, oh yeah, that's Mary Ellen, here's her address. What they're going to do is they'll sell that. They don't want to give up that information. That's a pot of gold, but they do want to sell against that information. And I know a lot of our listeners don't want that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're getting a lot of pressure from advertisers on the podcast of late. Well, how do we want to track? We want to track our. We got to. What there's no reasonable technology to do that right now. But they'll figure out a way to do it. That's what Spotify's all about. If you think about it, the reason Spotify spent $400 million on podcast networks is because they know that if you're listening in their app, they know all that about you. And so they can that makes Spotify a very valuable ad platform, and I think that's really their secret goal, and that's going to put a huge pressure on people like you, Chris, and people like me, independent podcasters, because
it's depressing.
It's very depressing.
It's very, very depressing.
They're increasingly demanding, and we can't give them, fortunately. And we explain to them, even if we could do that, our audience doesn't want us spying on them. But that's what they get with the web ads, and they think they should be able to get that with a podcast too. It's hard on radio and TV too, of course, because radio doesn't know that, TV doesn't know that. But those are such traditional forms of media that, there's a certain amount of legacy understanding. The agencies who buy radio and TV understand that, well, we can't buy it that way. But I suspect in the long run, the billions of dollars are going to move from traditional media to Google and Facebook.
How does radio in the U.S. determine listener numbers? They
use a company generally called Arbitron. Sometimes they use Nielsen. Very similar to TV. They get ratings. That's always a statistical.
Do they have boxes at home when people press a button when they listen to a channel?
They do have people meters you can put on your radio. They also, for years, sent out diaries, which is a less accurate method. But that was a funny thing. When people meters came into radio, it kind of had a depressing effect on radio stations because the audience numbers. So if you're Rush Limbaugh and you've got a devoted audience, your audience with the diaries is going to write in every day. I listen every day, all 3 hours every day, and they're just going to write that in because people don't write it in as they go. They write it in at the end of the week. So shows like that had very devoted fans. The problem is those people meters don't lie, and those numbers across the board went down. And so it hurt radio badly when they first came out. I think in the long run, we all agree accurate numbers are fine as long as everybody uses the same numbers. Then it's apples to apples. In a way, that eliminated the advantage that somebody like me or Rush would have because we have devoted listeners as opposed to just kind of casual radio listeners.
Mm-hmm. Here's even less accurate. I think they only call a bunch of people.
Yeah, phone
and
surveys.
Ask them questions, which
But see, that's why digital is advertisers love digital because they have at least somewhat accurate numbers. Even podcasts, we at least know how many people listen to the show or downloaded it. Sometimes they say, "Well, we don't know they listen to the whole show," and I say, "No, we don't." and we would only know that if we forced them to use a particular app like Spotify.
Well, at least since Apple started doing some metrics, you kind of know for that segment how many drop out at what point in the show. But that is, I think, still okay. But full transparency, full surveillance on that.
That's the problem. I don't mind the information. I think we would benefit from more accurate information, frankly. But we can't spy on our audience. They would kill us.
Yeah.
And I agree, and I would agree with him. Unfortunately, ad tech, I was at the last podcast movement, and ad tech is coming strong.
Oh yeah,
to podcasting. The advertisers will demand it, and I think in the long run it could hurt us because we'll never do it. And Lisa's worried that advertisers are just going to say, "Well, we're not going to buy you unless you do it." Chris Marquardt is fast and slow with his photos. He is the king of our show of digital photography. I learn so much from you every week, Chris. He's a professional photographer, does great photo workshops. You'll find out more at discoverthetopfloor.com. He's got some great books, too, including his wide-angle photography book, even a book about film photography. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Leo. How are you today?
Great to see you. I am wonderful. How's the holidays? Chris is in Germany, where I think it's kind of cold right now. I'm thinking.
Well, it's getting closer to freezing, but
good.
Not that bad at this point. No.
Yeah. Well, I hope you stay warm in the Viewfinder Villa.
Of course I do. And what I want to talk about today has to do with this season, and it comes back every year. We're talking about the season of many tiny little light sources around the house, little Christmas lights.
I love all the sparkles,
decorations. So I want to go over this topic again. Just what kind of photography you can do in the holidays, what is different from the rest of the year. I already talked about the general season of winter with snow and everything. And the reason I really like winter is because it is the one out of the 4 seasons that looks so very different. And that is not only true out in the snow, that is also true back in your house with the tree up and some some lights that aren't there for the rest of the year normally. And so there's lights that are different. There's people coming together. There's different colors. And that's what I want to talk about. So let's start with the lights. What are the things you can do with lights? Well, first of all, lights are there to create a mood, right? That's what these are there for. And you can place them in different places in the photo. If you have a camera that can do a bit shallow depth of field, a bit out of focus backgrounds, background with sparkly lights in the background is always beautiful. Lights in the foreground, also out of focus, so your subject is somewhere away from the camera, but you have lights very close that you're shooting through, is another beautiful effect. The one thing you don't want to use is flash.
Yeah.
Flash
and you'll wash out all the lights.
The mood. Well, not just that. So flash has several problems in that context because we're looking at warm lights, right? Candles and these little sparkly lights. They are warm normally.
Right.
And a flash is cold.
When you say warm, they're kind of on the yellow side of the scale.
On the yellow
and
side,
flash
yeah.
is on the blue side of the spectrum.
Not warm to the touch, especially when they're LEDs.
Right.
They're probably not, but yeah, warmish in terms of color, in terms of
it's that cozy
feeling,
glow, that cozy warm glow.
That's it. Now, what you do is when you use a flash, normally most flashes on most cameras are cold in comparison. So
Anything
you have
but
this
cozy and warm.
warm light, and then you have this not so cozy flash being in
awful.
People's faces, and it comes straight from the camera. It's right above the lens, so it's not a good light. It's not beautiful. It kills the mood.
Yes.
So
not to mention blinding your subjects.
Yeah,
it kills the
that's
mood
just
more way than one.
That's a very short blinding.
It's annoying though if it's dimly lit and it's kind of dark and somebody puts off a flash. Oy, no fun
so
at all.
if you're a bit more advanced, you could use an orange gel on the flash, make it warmer this way, bounce it off the ceiling maybe. So that will help the mood. That will not kill the mood. If it's not warm enough, if your camera doesn't get these warm, nice colors, look into your white balance. That's another tip here. White balance is it adjusts the warmness of the picture. So instead of having it on auto, you might try moving it over to something like the little cloud symbol, which makes the entire picture warmer.
I noticed this. We had a Christmas party last week, the company party. It was dim and it was dark. And Lisa took a lot of pictures with her iPhone. I did too. And one of the things we noticed is the iPhone's really good in low light, dim photography. But there were a lot of blurred hands as people were talking or blurred bodies as they were dancing. So the things that weren't moving were fine. But the things that were moving, we just couldn't really get. And that's what a flash does, is it freezes it. What can you do if you can't use a flash?
Well, if you can't use a flash, you raise the ISO, you make your camera more sensitive to light. That works. By the way,
tell everybody, don't move.
Well, the effect that you were seeing is one thing that smartphones do, that some cameras can do, is pros call that dragging the shutter. What you do is you have a longer exposure to capture the room, the ambience in the room.
Yeah.
And then the flash comes in and shoots a very brief burst of light, and that freezes some motion. So you have this mixture of motion and not motion, and that's quite nice effect, actually.
Both the iPhone and Google's Pixel phones are kind of doing this without a flash by taking many pictures, some at a low shutter speed for the stuff that's not moving, some at a fast shutter speed, and then mixing them to get, it works amazingly well.
That's the computational photography aspect that will probably render everything I just said
it's changing, isn't
it? Wrong within a couple of years. I'll probably go back and say, oh, this is outdated now.
I noticed, though, that's why we get blurry hands. So the person is fine, the background is fine, but there's some stuff, it's what I call differential motion. Their head is moving a little bit. Their hands are moving a lot. The camera is not smart enough to say, oh, I got to freeze the hands. They just freeze the whole body, but not enough. And so it's that's challenging.
it'll generate a new style of looking at motion.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
And, I don't mind a little moving of the hands. They were dancing, right?
Yeah, well, then it's kind of helpful, I guess, to convey the mood. Another thing these phones, by the way, do really well is the flashes on those. They're not real flashes, they're LEDs, but they give a burst of light. A lot of these phones now have bicolor LEDs. So they have a warm and a cold LED, and they adjust it based on how warm the scene feels. So they're doing a relatively good job in kind of adjusting their warmth, so they won't necessarily drown the entire scene in just blue cold light.
Right.
And another thing that
go ahead.
Sorry, another thing that is kind of nice with smartphones is if you take a selfie. I know it from the iPhone. It uses the screen as a light source as well.
Wild?
So you have a instead of a point light source, you have a light source that has an area, and that gives you nicer, softer shadows.
It's like a softbox, sort of.
Yeah, very small. Very smart.
And then some of these phones also are doing color adjustments in their flash. So they're getting the ambient room color. And
that's what I mean. It's the bicolor flashes that adjust to...
It's a marvelous thing.
Yeah. And
what a world.
Last but not least, colors, the warm and cold contrast. A wonderful, beautiful shot that you can take is go outside the house when it's dark, shoot through a window to the inside. So you have this wonderful, nice, warm and cold contrast.
Nice. So, you can't drag the shutter on a smartphone.
If the smartphone decides to do it, then
it might do it by itself. Yeah,
it might do it by itself, but
if you're going to do it,
you
have
no control over that.
A camera that you had more control of, you'd have a separate flash. You'd shoot a long exposure and then a brief flash, and that way the brief flash would get the instantaneous motion of the people, and the long exposure would get the background that isn't moving.
And most cameras, most mirrorless cameras, most DSLRs can easily do that. It's
so nice. Hey, I want to mention our Epson EcoTank printers. We got 2 of them at home. I love these, and I can speak with confidence about how good they are because I set them up, I filled them up. And we bought our Epson EcoTanks. One was a couple of years ago. One was about a year ago. And I haven't been to the store to buy more cartridges since. I probably won't go for another year. Epson EcoTank printers. This holiday season, kiss expensive ink cartridges goodbye because the Epson EcoTank comes with a ton of ink in the box. Thousands and thousands of pages worth. For most users, we're talking about a couple of years. And the beauty part is you buy it today. When you go back to the office supply store because you need more ink in 2021, you'll buy more ink and you'll say, I'll see you in 2023. Bye-bye. It's amazing. Supersized. They're easy to fill. You can't fill them wrong. They're keyed bottles. No drip, no muss, no fuss, and you'll never hassle with buying or changing ink cartridges again. And honestly, I also love it because I don't have to worry about the landfill with all those ink cartridges piling up, right? It's really changing the way people print. It's a complete revolution, and I really honor Epson for doing this because this is a big change in how they do business. And they just decided to do the right thing for customers. And I think we ought to, praise them for that. So this holiday season, go ahead, print all those wish lists, the letters to Santa, even holiday cards in color, and maybe even think about getting an Epson EcoTank printer for the people you love. The perfect holiday gift. So add that EcoTank printer to your holiday shopping list, and you and your friends and loved ones can just fill and chill. Check out EcoTank printers at Best Buy, Staples, Walmart, Target, Epson.com/EcoTank Leo if you want to learn more. Transform the way your home or office prints. Do away with out-of-ink frustration. Epson, EPSON.com/EcoTank Leo. Epson EcoTank printers. Just fill and chill. Epson, exceed your vision. You're sweet as a honeybee. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number. Angela is in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Angela.
Hi, how's it going, Leo?
It's going great. You must be freezing.
Yeah, it's getting chilly down here.
Yikes. Up there, not down here. Up there. Way up there.
Ups and downs.
I guess, though, in the Maritimes that the ocean probably keeps it from getting too extreme.
Well, it depends on where you're at. If you're inland or further inland or the coast.
Are you on the coast?
It's kind of, yeah. Not too far in, but enough.
It's a beautiful area
Enough
anyway.
that it's cold.
Yeah. What can I do for you?
No. Well, I've got a 2015, we've had just a couple of years, and just the past few months, when I go to shut it down, it kind of, I'll call it resprings, but it doesn't.
It comes back. It starts up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's when you say 2015, it's a Mac, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry, 2015.
No, you don't have to say anything because 2015, those were the best Macs. Those were the best MacBooks. I kept my 2015 a long time because Apple refused to.
It's funny. The one thing you like about it is the one thing I hate about it.
The keyboard?
I hate that keyboard. I hate those noisy keyboards.
Oh, well, they're more noisy with the butterfly key. They click like something awful. So it's a different kind of click. Yeah, it's a different kind of click, but
yeah, I bought one of those covers you put over the keyboard.
Oh yeah, little rubber things. Yeah,
it numbs the key. It deadens the sound.
Yeah.
So I like the spring, but I hate the clickety.
Yeah, exactly. I want that spring.
Yeah, totally. Like a nice combo of the two would be nice.
Have you? So what? Are you all the way up to Catalina? What operating system are you running?
Yeah, I got it all up to date.
Nice.
Right up to date.
You know what you probably want to do at some point. And I think it would fix this respringing, is wipe it and reinstall.
What brought it on, though? I mean, like I said, it worked perfectly the first, it's not, I didn't have it, brand new. It's just a couple years old. I bought it from Best Buy brand new as a 2015.
Yeah, it's something that happens with software over time. I've had it happen on Macs, too. Macs seem prone to it, although I've seen it on Windows as well. You shut it down. What happens is you send a signal to all the applications and say shut down, and they go, oh, okay, and they save their files, or they ask you, do you want to save it? They do, they do an orderly shutdown. That's why you don't just turn it off by pressing the holding the on-off button. But at that point, they will send a signal to the Mac. Okay, we're all done. You can shut down. And you notice that's why it takes sometimes a while. You'll see the spinning disk as it's shutting down. But yours, spinning disk, screen goes off, and then all of a sudden you see the Apple logo. What? And it's starting up, right?
No, what I get is the desktop to come back on, but yet I don't get the dock or any of the other stuff that was.
Oh. Okay, so that's an incomplete shutdown is what that is. Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified. So it's not starting up again. It never did shut down. So that means there's some process hanging. Now, normally what the Mac will do is say, I can't shut down because your calendar won't shut or something like that. And you've seen that, I'm sure everybody has.
Yep.
But that's only if the Mac figures out what's going on. But a low-level process, a driver, something else that's not shutting down will keep it from shutting off, but still enough has shut. So in other words, the Mac says, okay, everybody's done, and starts to close things like the Finder and the dock, and then realizes, oh, I can't close yet. The disks have not been updated, or some low-level process hasn't completed.
Yeah.
And it stops, and that means you don't have a dock, you don't have a Finder, you just have wallpaper.
Yeah, the screen, but then I got to wait sometimes a couple minutes, and then it'll finally completely go.
Yeah. So something's hanging on the shutdown. Something low level, a driver, that kind of thing. A complete reinstall, reason I recommend it, will probably fix that because you've been upgrading over time. Sometimes there's older apps that have hung around and maybe they're not doing the job. You should look at what's in your menu bar and close. There are a lot of little things running in the background. On anybody who's been using a computer for a while, you'll have a lot of little things running in the background. I would see, you want to figure out what's hanging it. So I would see if you try, you could do trial and error, closing some of these things before you shut down, and then see if it'll shut down.
Kind of like maybe do like a force quit.
Yeah, well, if you go in the menu bar, almost all the items in your menu bar will have a quit item. The other thing you can do is launch the activity monitor. And the activity monitor will show you all the processes that are running in a list. And most of them you'll recognize. Some of them, like Chrome, you'll see 10 Chrome processes. Each tab's a separate process. You can manually close those. In fact, what would be an interesting experiment is opening Activity Manager before your shutdown, watching things close, and see what doesn't close. That might give you the information you need as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because mostly that was what I was doing, but the last while too, I've also had the computer kind of do that. Half a respring, I'll call it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it'll say your computer didn't shut down right. And sometimes a message will come on that.
Yep.
Once in a while, I've even been getting that lately.
Yep.
So are those two things kind of correlated?
Yes, they are. It's something's running in the background. It's not shutting down properly, and so sometimes it just takes a long time, and then the computer goes, "Oh, finally, thank you. I've been waiting for you."
Yeah, exactly. Because it did it was stuck on that reboot. Then it was stuck on that reboot that you thought I was saying initially.
Yep. And then you get a reboot. So. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one to kind of diagnose. The easiest fix is to reinstall, wipe the drive, back up your data, wipe the drive, install Catalina Clean. But that's a lot of work. If you don't want to do that, open the Activity Manager, see what's running. Maybe manually close a few things in the Activity Manager. What you'll notice is the Unruly app you won't be able to close normally. You'll have to force quit it, and that'll tell you that probably is the one that's giving you fits.
That's kind of not cooperating, shutting down.
This is detective work. You're doing detective work now. It's not the end of the world. It's not a bad thing, but it's certainly annoying, and it's worth figuring out what's doing that.
Exactly, especially when it every once in a while it's done the complete respring, not the semi-respring.
Yeah, it goes all the way down and then all the way back up. I've seen that also. Every operating system does a little bit of that. If you think about it, these computers are way too complex. You've got dozens of things running in the background all the time, indexing the disk and all sorts of nutty stuff. And it's just, this is the nature of the beast. As time has gone by, they've just gotten more and more and more and more and more and more complex. It'd be nice to start over. I think the only company that's doing that, at least that I know of, is Google. They've got a new operating system they call Fuchsia. They're trying to write from scratch. But and I bet you in the labs, Microsoft and Apple both have guys working on brand new operating systems. But the problem is you don't want to start a new operating system because then you have to go out and get all new programs. Nobody's written programs for this new operating system, so you'd really be starting from ground zero. And while this is the right thing to do, if you're a programmer, you know this, that the way programmers, when you're writing an application, typically will work is they'll look at the problem, the specification is given to them by the customer, and they'll do a first pass at it. Get it running, and maybe it's slower than they want it to be, but often I think if you're going to write a great program, you'll throw that first pass out. That first pass is just, I've learned what I need to know, and let's start over and do it right this time. And even then, after that second pass, you might do what they call refactoring, go back through it bit by bit and polish it up here, tighten a bolt there, eliminate a couple of extra parts here, and that's how you get a good program. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes thinking. And by now, our operating systems are so old. You couldn't do that if you wanted to. Hey, great to talk to you. Stay warm up there in Nova Scotia. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. It's tech time. Oh, yeah, your worst nightmare. A geek with his own radio show. Whoever thought that was a good idea? Huh? 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number if you want to call with a question, a comment, or a suggestion. There is a website, techguylabs.com, and you can go there at any time. No sign up, no fee, but all the answers to the questions are there. In fact, you could search back through all 1,600 some shows and find out even what I thought the best word processor was in 2004. I mean, you can go that far back. TechGuyLabs.com. No sign up required. Let's see here. Line 2, Andrew Brewster, New York. Hey, Andrew. Andrew, come on over the phone. You're on the air, sir.
How are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. How you doing?
I feel special today.
Welcome to the show, Andrew. Great to talk to you. What can I do for you?
I have Verizon Fios, right? And I only have internet. And, come the end of the year, they're going to jack the price up, with the rental fee and whatnot. So I was thinking I want to get my own router.
Well, yeah. So Verizon provides a router, as well as normally when you get cable or DSL, you'll have a modem and a router. A lot of times the companies bundle them together. The modem is taking the signal off the cable and demodulating it so that it looks like Ethernet, and then it can go into the router. It's kind of the same with Fios. You have to have an ONT that will take the stuff coming into the wall and turn it into Ethernet. And then you can use your own router, but the problem is the way Verizon does it, they bundle that all together. I am looking at a thread on the Verizon forums by somebody who says, it's called Using My Own Router with Fios. And it looks like he's kind of figured out how to do it. So you have a bundled modem router from Fios, right? Or ONT router, I guess is what that would technically.
Yeah, they got the wire that comes into the house into a black box, and then they got going off the black box into the router.
The black box does the whole thing. So there's a couple of possibilities. You could get your own router. It's not going to save you money on the rental. They're going to charge you rental for that box. You kind of have to have that box. But you have to be able to get into the Verizon box and turn off network address translation, DHCP. You have to let that stop doing that so that your router can do it. But it won't save you any money. It'll just give you a better routing experience. Verizon, in fact, most companies don't want to do this because if they control the router, they control you, and they can throttle you. They can keep an eye on your bandwidth usage. There's all sorts of things they can do that they can't do if your router is sitting there. Which is, in my opinion, a good reason to have your own router. So you're going to have to do some research.
I went on DSO reports, and
there you go.
Over it,
there you go.
It's all confusing.
It's complicated. That's why. So you can't. I don't think you can get rid of that Verizon box. And I'm not up on this completely, so maybe the chat room can help me. I think you're going to need an ONT, and I don't. Some cable companies will let you use your own cable modem, right? Most will.
Right.
But Verizon's ONT is a unique and expensive technology, and I think that they don't let you use a third-party ONT. That you have to use theirs. So that box, you're never going to get rid of that rental. Just consider that the price of admission. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me see. Mike B. Now, Mike B says, because the ONT and the router are separate, you can get rid of the router. Are they separate boxes, or is it just one box?
Well, I don't know if it's separate. There's a wire that comes into the house. Right?
Does a wire that's coming into the house, let me ask you this, is it Ethernet?
No.
No.
No, I don't think so. There's a wire that goes right into the black box.
Well, let me put it this way. Mike B., who's in New Jersey, so maybe he even has the same setup you do, says that there is a distinct ONT and a distinct router. That you're paying rent on both devices. You can't replace the ONT, but you can replace the router. And you can tell, and then once you replace the router, you'll put your own router in there, and that'll save you $8 a month.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was curious about.
The ONT is the thing. It stands for optical network terminal. It's the thing that takes the glass fiber coming into the wall and turns it into something Ethernet. I guess it's analogous to a cable modem. So you have to have that. That's Verizon's proprietary technology. But apparently you don't have to use their router. If it's a separate box, that's easy, that's obvious. If it's not a separate box, you can disable routing in the device that they've given you. So that's the trick. He says at his house it is separate. So maybe it is in your case. I just don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I was thinking, getting my own router and
get a good. You can get a better router. You can do other things with it. You don't have to do Wi-Fi. You could do something that like power line networking that goes through the power lines of your house, or you could do Mocha that goes through the cable wires. You're not using those anymore through your house, and you could make a network that way. So yeah, there's much more flexibility if you don't have to use that Verizon box that they gave you.
Well, yeah, I was just looking to get rid of the router itself, though.
Yeah. Okay, good. So if it's a separate ONT router, if it's not one box doing both, then you're good. You can take that router out, bring it back to Verizon, say, don't charge me rent for your cruddy little router, and then you'll have to buy one, obviously. But if the rent's $8 a month, it'll pay for itself in a year or two.
Yeah, because I've seen with other routers I was looking at, like Net, because I know you're big on Netgear and whatnot, and I was looking at all those, and they got the inline for the Ethernet. Some of them has a WAN port.
Exactly. There's a lot more that you can do if you have your own. They'll all have a WAN port. That'll come off the ONT. That'll be the Ethernet off the ONT. Will go into the back of the router, and then depending on what you want to do. There's all sorts of stuff. You can get a mesh router system, for instance, like the Eero, our sponsor, and plug that in, and then you get the little beacons, and that spreads it out through all the house. There's a lot more capability if you're doing your own router, not to mention the $8 a month.
Right. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
I upgraded. I had a Windows 7 laptop, right? And I upgraded to that free upgrade for the Windows 10. And in Windows security, it comes up as far as like device security. Yeah. It comes up standard hardware, not protected or whatever, something to that effect. Let me see.
It's probably not important. The main thing to do.
Yeah, we can ask that.
The main thing to do is to look at the system properties and see if it's activated. If Windows 10 is activated, you're good. You're golden. Now you've got a legit copy of Windows 10. The Windows Security Manager will complain if you don't have a antivirus installed. It's worth looking at its recommendations, but it's just recommendations.
Standard hardware security not supported. That's what it says.
I never even seen that message.
Yeah, it's in Windows Security. It's a device, and it has off to the side device security, and just says it's not supported.
You probably, I'm guessing that has something to do with the TPM chip or something like that. Is it a laptop or a desktop?
Laptop.
Yeah, so laptops typically have hardware protection with a chip called the TPM chip, which, as it turns out, sometimes is not so safe. There was just recently a TPM flaw. So that's the device. I'm looking at the device security. Yeah, it's whether you have a TPM chip. So that just means your laptop doesn't. Not a bad thing at all.
Oh, okay. So
don't worry about it. And you can even disable that if you don't want to see that message anymore. It's not important.
Yeah, no, it's not a message. It's just in Windows security itself.
That's the TPM, the Trusted Platform Module. And ironically, there was just a security flaw revealed in the Trusted Platform Module. So you might be better off, actually.
I have a desktop, right? And it used to say that everything was good, and then all of a sudden I started getting that message again on my desktop.
Shouldn't get it on a desktop. Desktops don't typically have TPMs, so.
Yeah, this one does.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I don't know.
And then I went online and I'm looking up into Microsoft and all this other stuff, and I just
just ignore it.
Said about rebooting it or something.
Just ignore it. I'm not sure why it's saying that, but you don't need it.
Yeah. I got to say I appreciate you a lot, because the wind-up is, I'm not really tech savvy at all.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Barely minimal.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. It sounds like you're doing fine.
Basically holding my own, I guess.
Hey, keep listening. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
These days, if you're holding your own in the technology world, you're doing great. You're doing better than most. I love my Brave browser. Our Tech Guy podcast brought to you by Brave, as always. I've been using Brave for a long time. Long time. Because it's a better browser. Now, I was a Chrome user. I think probably a lot of you are Chrome users or were Chrome users. And I was reluctant to give up Chrome. I just didn't like how the other browsers looked. I liked the Chrome look, and I was dependent on a lot of Chrome extensions. So I was so happy when I discovered Brave. Brave.com/twit. It's a free browser based on Chrome. It is Chrome, except they take out all the googly stuff, the bad stuff, which means it's a privacy-respecting browser that gives you unmatched speed, because it turns out when you got ad blocking, when you got tracking protection, when you don't download all that excess JavaScript, your browsing's faster, a lot faster. You also save battery life. And with Brave, you can even reward the sites you visit, even though you're not seeing their ads, with basic attention tokens. It gives publishers back their fair share of web revenue. Brave's got it all figured out. The best thing to do, it's easy to add another browser. You can easily use more than one browser on any platform. And by the way, Brave's on every platform, Windows, Mac. Yes, I use it on Linux, iOS, and Android too. You can download the browser, start using it. First thing I would do, go into the settings and take a look at all the things you can turn off, all the tracking, all the Facebook like buttons, the LinkedIn buttons, all the Twitter buttons, all that stuff that's tracking you everywhere you go on the internet. The ad blocking is great. And if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can opt into privacy-respecting ads from Brave. They're just little notifications. They don't snoop on you. They don't take over your surfing. If you turn them on, you can earn Brave's BAT tokens and then reward the sites you visit. You're not seeing their ads anymore, but you could say, have some BAT. And that's a really great way to give them revenue. They can cash it in if they want to real, money. But it's a great way to solve this conundrum of, I don't want the insecurity, the data, munching ads. But I do want to keep visiting the sites I love, and I want to support them. This is a perfect compromise. It gives you unmatched speed. Brave gives you online privacy. It blocks trackers. It's a better user experience. It's free. Getting set up is very easy. Once you install it, it'll import your bookmarks from the other browser. The other thing I noticed, yes, it will run Chrome extensions, but I don't install nearly half the Chrome extensions I used to. I don't need an ad blocker. I don't need a script blocker. I don't need a privacy blocker. All that stuff is just done by Brave, built in automatically, which means it does it better and it does it faster. Basically, I install LastPass, my password vault. I install privacy.com. That's the one-shot credit card company. Those few things that I really use, they work exactly the same because it's Chromium. It's based on Chromium. But I don't have to install the uBlock Origin, which doesn't work with Chrome anymore anyway. That's why I went to Brave. You'll save battery life. You'll reduce data costs. It's easy to go back and forth. If you need, for some reason, to launch Chrome or some other browser, you can still do that. They don't go away. But I think you're going to want to use Brave day to day. I know I do. Brave.com/twit. By the way, one more thing, I always like to mention this. The incognito tab on browsers, the private browsing, it ain't private on Google's Chrome. Google still sees everywhere you're going. It just means don't save cookies. With Brave, it's truly private. You can turn on Tor browsing in their private browsing tab. No one knows who you are. It is totally anonymous. That's just one of many, many ways Brave does it better. Yesterday was about big tech. Today's about us. The best browser for you, for everybody, is Brave. Get it today, brave.com/twit. And we thank Brave so much for not only supporting the podcast by buying an ad, but for making a browser that's just better. Brave.com/twit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The question of the day, ¿Dónde es Santa Claus? Henry, Prescott Valley, Arizona. Hello, Henry.
How you doing there, Leo?
I am great. How you doing, Henry?
If I were any better, I'd be twins.
Oh, my goodness. Two of you. I don't know if I could take that. My son's name is Henry. They ever call you Hank?
Yes.
There were so many Henrys in his class. We named him Henry. We thought this is a great, classic, beautiful name, and no one else will have it. And every kid in his 5th grade class was named Henry practically. There's 4 or 5 of them. So he ended up being Hank.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Hank's great. Yeah.
It's good to know what to answer to sometimes.
Yes, exactly. What can I do for you, Mr. Hank?
Well, it's a kind of a different angle on one of the calls yesterday when they wanted to put sheet music onto an iPad.
Yes. Yeah, this was a great question. George plays music, and he wanted to he actually teaches, didn't he? He taught piano, and he didn't want to have to turn the page and all that. He wanted to put it on an iPad. He originally thought, I'll buy one of these cheap Android devices. I tried to talk him out of that. He uses Finale, which is, of course, a music composition program on the Mac. I thought initially there might be Finale on the iPad. There isn't. Do you have a suggestion?
Basically, I have another question because I want to take it another way. I like to have my music. I type out the lyrics and then put in the guitar chords above the words.
Ah.
I don't need all the notes and everything. I'm strictly rhythm. I don't make it cry or sing.
Actually, there's a lot. That's a very common thing. There are a lot of places where you can get those charts, those guitar chord charts. What do you use for that? Is there something specific that you like?
I'm just going to probably use what is the word type program that comes with the iPad.
I bet you there's specific software. We recommended a scoring program for the iPad that is called Forscore, F-O-R-S-C-O-R-E, that a lot of people use. In fact, Apple showed it off, I remember, when the iPad Pro came out, because you can use the pencil to annotate it and move it around. I wonder if it also does chords. That would be an interesting feature. Then you'd have more than just a display. You'd have something that you could use to edit, to write, to create, make music, and so forth. The website is Forscore, F-O-R.co, Forscore.co. It looks like, they may not do guitar chords, but I'll have to look at it. They don't show them on their page. Let's put it that way. So, but that's a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that way I can keep from chopping down any further trees and.
Yeah, there's a lot to say for it. You could have thousands of scores, or in your case, thousands of. What is the name for those guitar chord things? I know there's a name for it.
It's called a lead sheet.
Lead sheet. You'd have thousands of those in your iPad. You could bring it with you everywhere. The only negative, I asked Scott Wilkinson about it because he plays it too, but he says he likes to hand annotate, write on the scores. He likes to have a piece of paper. But with the pencil, you can even do that on an iPad. I see a lot of musicians moving that way.
I have access to the Pro, so that's not a problem.
Perfect. Yeah, you have to get a pencil. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's made for that. I think that's a really good use of it. I wish I don't see Forscore supporting. Boy, and by the way, you can tune your guitar from the iPad and all sorts of things too. I don't see him.
How do you save something to the iPad, though?
Same thing. There's a save command. You can create a new document just like a regular device.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I needed.
What else can I do for you?
Well, I was just thinking a few minutes ago, 2 breaks ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
I thought I'd lost my connection with your lines, and that I had stumbled across an obscene phone call.
Oh no! What was I saying?
It wasn't what you were saying. It was that you were breathing real hard.
Well, I was simulating. Apparently it was annoying cats as well. I was simulating the sound of a cheering crowd. A cheering crowd, and because Kim and I were watching a sport ball game, and our team was winning, and I just was simulating a cheering crowd.
I was watching the same game, and I just saw the end of it.
Yes, and now I'm going to do it again. That is a terrible sound. I apologize.
I was laughing throughout the whole thing. And then when you said that you were annoying the cats,
a number of people in the chat room said, in fact, they're saying it again, cats get angry all over. It's something about that sound bothers cats, and I guess probably humans as well. It's an important game in the sport ball arena. That's why we're watching it carefully, as you were as well.
It definitely is right now.
It is a very important game, and I hope your Cardinals do well, too.
Well, I am something of a Cardinals fan, but my allegiance is with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, yeah.
Have a very good outturn yesterday.
Yeah. College ball easily surpasses the passion of the NFL. We just hired a guy who is a Clemson fan, and the day he doesn't wear orange is the day I know he's either deathly ill or lost his mind. He has paw prints all over everything. Hey, I've got to run, but I appreciate the call, Henry. I hope you find something that works nicely on your iPad. And actually, we could talk about save. I know what you meant by saving. We'll talk about that when I come back. I realize you don't mean saving on the iPad. You mean saving it elsewhere.
No, I want to save it to the iPad so I can use the iPad instead of printing out.
Well, if you're using Word, Word, the easiest way to do that, if you use Word on the desktop, the modern versions of Word come with OneDrive. Do you use OneDrive?
I haven't yet, no.
Okay. So by default, Microsoft Office saves to OneDrive. You get 5 gigabytes on OneDrive. That would be one way. So when you save that document, it's on OneDrive. Then you could put the OneDrive app on your iPad, and you can open it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I have the yearly subscription to.
Yes, then you have a terabyte of OneDrive. You have a lot of OneDrive. So
right, and then I think I can use it on more than one device.
You sure can. You can use it on all the devices you want. The same account, it works anywhere. So that's one way to do it. But Dropbox would work that way. You can even. I don't think people do this anymore. You can even connect your iPad to your computer and synchronize it, but it's much easier to put it in a cloud service. Apple's iCloud would also work, because on your iPad you have a files service now that will let you open iCloud, OneDrive, Dropbox, any of those services, and access the files in there. And then you just double-click it. In most cases, it'll be smart enough to open up Word on your iPad. Sometimes you'll have to share it to Word. You'll open it and then share it to Word. There is one other way you could do it now on the modern iPads. If you've gone to iOS 13, those iPad Pros have Type-C connectors. You can also copy it to a external USB device like a USB thumb drive, and then put it into your iPad and copy it there too. I think the cloud's the easiest way to do it, though.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an iCloud account. I have.
Oh yeah.
I've got a whole bunch of photographs and.
Yeah, those things don't take up. Those things won't take up much space. The real question is if you could find a chart program that would work with your guitar chords nicely, designed for that on the iPad, and then you would probably have to share it to that.
It would be okay.
That's the way to do it. In fact, honestly, it can play the guitar chords. It won't play it as well as you do, but at least you can hear what the sound is and all of that. There's a lot of capabilities for music in the iPad. This is a very popular combination.
Yeah, I usually send an MP3 of
oh, nice,
whatever I'm going to play to the guys who are going to accompany me, and then go from there. So
Steve Martin told me he composed he's written, of course, many albums. He's a banjo player. And I love him too. And he was working on an album with Edie Brickell. And he told me, I said, well, how did you work together? Because she's on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast. He would take his iPhone, he'd play a banjo song into the iPhone, record it, and mail it to her. And she would write the lyrics and mail them back. I mean, it works.
I think I heard one of their singles that has just been put out. I liked his stuff on Facebook, and I get noticed.
Perfect.
Whenever he's got something out.
Yeah.
And the one that they just recorded was just gorgeous.
I love his stuff. He's so talented. Yeah. And I'm not normally, I'd have to say, a banjo fan per se, but boy, the way he plays is just...
He's great.
He explained it to me. I think it was hammer claw, I think is what he said. But anyway, I didn't know he had a new one. I'll have to check it out.
Claw hammer.
Claw hammer.
Claw hammer is what it is.
Yeah, he plays the claw hammer. You know, you're a guitar player. You understand these things. Oh, is this it? The long-awaited album? Is that the new one?
Yes.
The long-awaited album. All right, with the Steep Canyon Rangers, who are so good. Yeah, I've seen them perform. It's just wonderful. So I thought I realized what our last caller was asking when he said, how do I save files? He meant what he wanted to do was save the files on the computer, on the PC. He was using Microsoft Word to create his guitar chord charts and then get it into the iPad. And that's actually quite easy. He was using Microsoft Office. He was using Word to create his guitar chords. And that's quite easy because Office, by default, saves to OneDrive, which is Microsoft's cloud solution. And, of course, you can put the OneDrive app on your iPad, use the Files app to open the file, and it would work just fine. You need Office on your iPad, but that's free. Of course, iCloud would work the same way. Nowadays, with the Files app, the iPad is much more capable of accessing files from a lot of different cloud sources. And he also has an iPad Pro, which means if you're using iOS 13, the new iPad Pros have the capability of reading USB drives. They just added that feature. That's fantastic. So you could even do it kind of old school sneakernet, copy the file onto a USB key on your computer and then plug it in your iPad. You might need an adapter for the Type-C connector, but plug it in your iPad and files will see that and open it up, and you can open it up from there. So plenty of ways of getting files into iPads now. It used to be you'd have to connect it via USB cable to the Macintosh and then fire up Apple's iTunes app and synchronize and copy the files over. It's much easier than it used to be. You don't have to do that anymore. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, and we're going to line 4, Richard in West LA. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Leo. Good to talk with you again.
Nice to talk with you.
I bought, and I know you're not going to like this, an Amazon tablet.
Yeah?
And one of the things I noticed when I first got it was there was a list of things I had to agree to, one of which was Amazon couldn't read my email.
Oh, hello, Amazon.
But let me ask you this. I did not select that. And
good.
There is a Gmail app on the tablet, and I've not supplied my password, so I don't get email through the tablet. Am I basically avoiding what Amazon says they're going to do?
You bet. You bet. And by the way, I think the Amazon tablets, they're really the only reasonable competitor, and it's based on price to the iPad. They're so much less expensive, and I have a Fire HD tablet too. They're not as good as the iPad, but they're a lot less expensive. And for a lot of people, they're all they need. But remember, these Amazon tablets, one of the reasons they're less expensive is they're subsidized by Amazon. I bet you Amazon doesn't make a ton of money on these, but they don't care because you know what you've got in your hand. It's a wonderful Amazon marketing tool. You get ads from Amazon. If you're watching TV, Amazon Prime is definitely, advanced over the others. And you caught something interesting I did not notice when I signed up with my Fire tablet. They ask for a lot of permissions. Now, what you also did, which was smart, was look at it and say no. And sometimes when you say no, they say, well, you can't use a tablet. But that kind of permission, they would be in deep trouble if they said, no, you have to let us read your email if you want to use our tablet. Nobody would buy their tablet. So I have
used the tablet in this country and in England and in Germany.
You're fine.
I had absolutely no problems with it. I use my phone for my email.
Right, but you could even use Gmail on there, and they wouldn't read that because you said no. That's the key.
Well, then I don't think they let you get in. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Oh, you did? You said yes.
No, I said no.
Yeah. So they'll let you use it. No. They're going to ask for all these permissions. This is a very important thing. People don't read these pop-ups, right? Because you're trying to use your gosh darn device that you spent money on, and it keeps. How many did you see? 7 or 8, right? Bunch of things pop up. It's that way on all computers these days. Long legalese. Nobody reads it. Page after page. Apple's funny because they say, well, you want us to email this to you so you can read it at your leisure? No, I want to use my computer. So nobody reads these. We all say, okay. Somebody once played a funny practical jokes piece of software some years ago, added crazy stuff. This was also a South Park episode. Crazy stuff like we'll take your firstborn that people were just agreeing to because nobody reads it. So you did the right thing. You should always at least maybe not read the contractual stuff. I mean, you should, but I understand if you don't. And that stuff, if you don't agree to the contractual stuff, you probably won't be able to use the device. But if you are asked for permissions with an application, this application would like to read and write your email, this application would like to send and receive text messages, you can say no to those, and in most cases, the application will still work. You might lose some features. I can't think of any feature you'd lose on a Fire tablet by saying, no, you can't read my email, Amazon. But they're going to ask for it, and you know why they're going to ask for it. It's the reason you said no. They want to scan through your email so they can figure out what ads to show you. So I think you did the absolute right thing. Absolutely not. You can't read my email. Google, by the way, recently, last couple of years, stopped reading your email for ads as well. You know, they used to scan through your email looking for keywords for ads, and people were so upset about it, they said, well, it's not worth it. It's not that valuable, and they stopped doing it. So say no. That's fine. And you may lose some features sometimes. For instance, sometimes you'll see a permission that says, Snapchat would like to read and send text messages on your behalf. And you might say, well, I don't want you sending text messages. They're not going to. That is because when you first sign up for Snapchat, they said, okay, we're going to verify your phone number. That's what you use to sign up for. So we're going to send you a text. And they want to make it convenient so they automatically read the text and verify it. So they needed that permission. At least that's what they say. And so if you don't give them that permission, well, you might have to manually paste the text message in. You know, things like that. Who cares? Say no. You did the right thing. Right on. Oh, are you still there? Oh, he hung up. All he wanted was affirmation. You did the right thing. 8888 Ask Leo. I don't think these are bad tablets at all. They're great. But understand, the reason Amazon's Fire tablets are so cheap is they're a vehicle for advertising Amazon. I stopped using, I had the Fire TV Cube, which I thought was really cool. Connected up to your TV. You can use Amazon's Echo to voice command. You can walk into the room and say, turn on the TV, turn on the 49ers game, and it'll do it for you. It was amazing. It would send out infrared signals and turn stuff on. It was a great universal device. I stopped using it only because once I was watching it, it kept promoting Amazon shows. You know, it was like it was a vehicle for Amazon. And Apple does the same thing with the Apple TV. If you have an Apple TV, by default, they've added this application called Apple TV, and what does it do? It shows you a lot of Apple TV shows. It shows your other stuff. They're not stupid. They give it some conveniences. It shows you what's next. If you're watching a show, next episode is easy to get to. It'll show you recommendations. But among those recommendations, very highly placed in beautiful animated tiles, are all the Apple TV shows. So everybody does this. At least on the Apple TV, you can go into the settings and say, look, I don't want the home screen to be your Apple TV advertising platform. I just want it to be the regular applications screen, and it won't show up. So that's, by the way, the first thing I do on an Apple TV, you can't really turn that off on Amazon's Fire TV sticks or their Fire tablets because it's a big part of their business. That's why the stuff is cheap. They subsidize it with advertising, in effect. And it's why they wanted to read your ads. I think you were absolutely right to say no. Read your email. Just so they can do better advertising. Now, some people don't mind. You could make a case that, well, I would prefer to have ads for stuff I'm interested in. And I don't think they're reading your email to snoop on you. They just want to, show you ads you're interested in. Some people, that doesn't bother them. By the way, chat room's reminding me there's a great site to help you understand those agreements you don't read. TOSDR.org. TOSDR.org. Good to mention, Liquify. Thank you. Oh, that was a hard break. It's hard for me not to be jumping up and down. That was a very exciting game. Holy cow. Okay. Oh, my heart was pounding. That was freaking awesome. Thank you to Lady Laura, our musical director. She's so good. So good. And didn't play the Barking Dogs Christmas once. No Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas, not even once. Laura, don't get any ideas for next weekend. I'm just warning. She's great. I also want to thank Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. She does a great job. But you know what? The most important person on this show is you. You listening, you calling, that makes such a big difference. So thank you. It'd be silly for me to sit here and talk for 3 hours to nobody. What'd be the point? Brett on the line, Tacoma, Washington. Hello, Brett. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how's it going, Leo?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little paranoid because I think I got hacked, or at least got attempted to be hacked.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Unraid?
I am not. Unraid is that an open source RAID system, or is it a hard? I'm looking. Unleash Your Hardware, operating system for personal and small business use. Huh.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost kind of like a NAS.
Okay. It's a NAS. Okay. Yeah, you can run Plex on it, Kodi. It works. So you basically build your own network attached storage using Unraid.
Yeah, and I can put like basically unlimited drives on there and everything like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
There are open source systems like that. FreeNAS is one. And, of course, there's lots of proprietary NAS software. I use a Synology NAS. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to assume Unraid's basically a NAS operating system.
Yeah. And I got a message the other day saying that I had, I think it was like 114 like a login attempt.
Oh, yeah, that's normal. So is a NAS, I should explain to people listening, it stands for Network Attached Storage. It's a computer, but it doesn't typically have a keyboard or a mouse or a monitor. It's connected up to your network so you can access it from all the other computers on your network. And a lot of times, I do this, and many people do, you put your NAS storage online. You make it accessible through the internet, so that you can, for instance, I can download files from my NAS here at work. My NAS is at home. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
so
I'm
any
doing
server that's online, you're doing it with Plex. Okay. Any server that's online is going to be attacked. They're all attacked because it's very easy for people to run tools. There's a tool called Shodan, for instance, that will scour the internet looking for flaws. There are many tools that will scour the internet, like Nmap, that will look for servers. Maybe somebody is especially interested in Unraid. Maybe they've got a hack on Unraid. Maybe they just see a login and they're going to try it. So this is very normal. My Synology NAS is also public. It's running Plex like yours is. They're a sponsor. And so people try to log in all the time. Now, what Synology does, and I would look in Unraid, I bet you they do it too. Synology has security features to ameliorate this. People are going to try to log in, but you can say, for instance, only allowed to log in from certain regions. For instance, I won't let anybody from China try to log in because I'm not in China. But now if you travel to China, you can't do that. But that's the kind of thing we can do. We can limit it to certain IP addresses. If you only log in from work, for instance, you could say, well, the only logins are from my work IP addresses. It will also have a feature if somebody, and I turned this on, attempts to log in with the wrong password more than, say, 3 times or 5 times, you set the limit. From then on, block that IP address because it ain't me. And I would look for that kind of security feature in Unraid. The fact that they're trying to log in doesn't mean you're hacked. It does mean you're hacked if they get in. Did they get in?
No.
Good.
Actually, I have one more question.
You have a good password. That's important. Do not make a public server password something like monkey123, or you will be hacked. You will be hacked right away.
Yeah. And I do have a good password, but the other thing that I was concerned about is I have Xfinity.
Okay.
Like Comcast.
Yep.
And for some reason, it seems like after I reset my router and I changed my ILO password on my server, it seems like that all the data that they've been using, it seems like they've been using a lot of data before I caught up with that.
So you have a public Plex server?
Just for myself.
But it's when I say public, I mean it's publicly addressable.
Yeah,
you can get on your Plex server. You can be at a hotel, and that's what you do with it, right? You can be at a hotel and log in, right?
Yeah.
And you're the only one using it, so you know roughly how much data you're going to be using, and you think that more than that has been used.
Yeah, well, because the first of the month I was using 150 gigabytes.
Right.
And it's usually not that much.
So, and of course, if you're on Xfinity, at least in my neck of the woods, they limit you to a terabyte a month. Thank you, Xfinity, you nitwits. Data caps make no sense. That's just greed times 10. Then you do have to pay attention to your data caps. So this is a reasonable thing because they'll charge you a lot of money if you go over the terabyte.
Yeah. And it seems like they've been. It seems like it was using a lot more than usual.
Well, this is a good thing to pay attention to. It's a symptom, perhaps. Changing your passwords will help. I am sure Unraid has security features. At the very least, you should look at your log. There will be a log on the software, on the interface somewhere that will say what IP addresses have been accessing your server. Look at that. Make sure that you know all those addresses.
Okay.
One thing, if you've shared your Plex password, people do this all the time. In fact, sometimes they make them public. Then expect people you shared it with to use more than you expect, right? That'll happen.
Yeah.
So
I haven't been sharing my password.
Good.
I usually just keep it to myself or my girlfriend or something.
Well, you only have a terabyte. Maybe your girlfriend decided to do a binge of the Gilmore Girls, and suddenly you're down a terabyte and a half. But you can find that out. There will be. I'm not familiar with Unraid, but there will be a log somewhere of the IP addresses that have been accessing it. Take a look at that. That'll give you some idea of who's been downloading. They may, a good NAS. These are very important features. These security features. They might even, and they should, have information about how much each IP address is downloaded. So you should be able to narrow in pretty quickly to whoever was using your bandwidth like that. I'll have to take a look at Unraid. That's pretty cool. I am extremely happy with Synology. They are not a sponsor, much as I've tried, but they've done a very good job. They make a great NAS, and I'm very happy with their DSM solution. That's the operating system for Synology NASs. It has a lot of good security features, and I would not put any server online publicly unless you really knew that the software was, patched up and secure, and B, that it had good, strong security features. When you take something in your network at your house and you put that with a public-facing address, you've really got to lock that down, because people will attack you. I get people try to hack my password every single day. That's normal. You just have to have the features on there that make it hard for them to do so. Make a good password. Block IP addresses from countries where you're not visiting. Make sure that if somebody tries to log in more than a few times, even if they use different passwords, if they have the same name, in fact, they always will, won't they, use different passwords? They're trying. That after a few failed attempts, you block their address. That kind of thing makes a big difference. That's what you're looking for in good NAS operating system. Hey, that's it for me. I'll be back next week. I hope you will too. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.